Hi friends, we'll try this again. But before we do our lesson, I want to check in and make sure how you guys are doing. Since we don't get to see you, just know that you're thought about, and so sometime check in, send me an email, just let me know you're doing okay, and that would be super. So just a couple of things before we start this week that I forgot last week, and I don't want to forget. You should all have gotten an email from me, and I'll send another one this week too. But what it has in there, it has the bulletins that you would get in church if you were upstairs there during worship that you can do. So I sent them as an attachment that you can download them, and it gives you a project to do so you can work on that. And then I also made a copy of the back page of your Sunday school lesson for this week, because when you take these home, the back page always has things for you to do as a family. So I would invite you to download this too and look and see what kinds of things you could do as a family this week that relates to your lesson, but also that gives you time to be with your family and do things together. So if you didn't get the email, please make sure you send me an email and let me know, and I will send it to you. You might want to check your spam file just in case the technology doesn't like me when I send things to you. So anyway, you should get that in your email, and so let me know how that works. And one idea is, as you're doing this stuff as a family, maybe take a picture of what you're doing and then send me the picture. And then maybe we can convince Pastor John to put those kinds of fun things up on the website to let us know what our families are doing together. So that would be an idea. That would be fun. Okay, so one fun thing that we saw this week when we came into church on Monday was that people had been out drawing with chalk on the sidewalks, and that was pretty cool. So that might be an idea for something for you guys to do during the week, because now that it rained, all those things got washed away, so you could do it again. And when we get done with our lesson now, I'll have an idea for you to do this week. So let's see what will happen now. Now we'll start with our lesson. So can you tell me what season we're in? I can't hear you. It's Lent, isn't it? That's right. And what color is it? It's purple. And what week is it? Last week was the 4th week. This week is the 5th week. And how many more do we have to go? Just one more. And then we head into Holy Week. So this is week 5. And this week, our story is going to be filled with sadness and grief. So it could be a tough lesson this week as we listen to what's going on. Our story is going to be about Jesus and 2 sisters and their brother, and they are all Jesus' friends. And so we'll see what happens with our story this week. Let's read our Bible story, and we'll see what our friends in the world are going to do. So this is from the Gospel of John. Is the Gospel in the Old Testament or New Testament? It's in the New Testament, that's right. And John is what gospel? We've got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So it's the 4th gospel. So that's where our story comes from today. And it's about Lazarus. The disciples had never seen Jesus cry, but he was crying now. Have you ever seen a grown-up cry before? Think about that. Grown-ups cry sometimes, don't they? Yeah. All right, so let's hear our story. Jesus put his arm around Mary. Her face was wet with tears. Mary and Martha's brother Lazarus, a good friend of Jesus, had died. When Jesus heard Lazarus was sick, he was in another town far away. Jesus waited 2 days before traveling to Bethany to see his friend. By the time Jesus and the disciples arrived, Lazarus had died. If you had been here, Mary cried, Lazarus would not have died. Your brother Lazarus will rise again, Jesus assured Mary. Mary wiped her tears. Jesus, Mary, and her sister Martha went to the tomb. Friends and neighbors gathered around the tomb to grieve with Mary and Martha. Remove the stone, Jesus said. The crowd shoved aside the huge stone blocking the tomb. Martha whispered, "But Jesus, Lazarus has already been dead for 4 days." Think about what that might have smelled like, huh? She was kind of warning Jesus there. Jesus turned his eyes to God and prayed, Father, thank you for always hearing me. Help this crowd see what's about to happen and believe. Lazarus, Jesus shouted, come out. The crowd gasped. It was Lazarus, walking out of the tomb. Lazarus was alive again. Many people who saw this believed in God. That's our Bible story. So Lazarus was dead, but Jesus raised him from the dead. But Lazarus will die again later, right? Just because Jesus gave him life now, it's just extra life. It isn't life forever. But that's good. And Jesus was sad too, wasn't he? And so he cried because Lazarus was his friend. And we get sad when things happen to our friends, don't we? And we're sad now. Let's see what our friends with World are going to tell us about a handkerchief holdout.
Everyone, I'm afraid I have some very sad news today.
What is it, Roxy?
Well, when I arrived this morning to set up for Sunday school, I found that Hannibal Hamster, the class gerbil, passed away last night.
What? Oh no! Hannibal Hamster! No!
I'm truly sorry. I know this is hard for all of you.
Victor's gonna be so sad. He was the one who donated Hannibal Hamster to the Sunday school. He named Hannibal Hamster. He loved Hannibal Hamster.
Oh dear. I didn't know.
Didn't know what?
I'm very sorry, Victor, but Hannibal Hamster passed away last night.
Hannibal Hamster? My gerbil?
I know he meant a lot to you.
Where's his body?
Janitor Jerry is going to bury him by the edge of the woods. I'll check to see if he's already left.
Victor, we're really sorry. Yeah, Hannibal Hamster was a great gerbil.
He was. And he shall be remembered.
Poor Mr. Fussler will be so lonely now.
I didn't even think of Mr. Fussler. All right, let's continue with Sunday school.
Victor, if you need some time, we understand.
I don't need time.
Victor, you're clearly upset.
I must be strong. I must stay hopeful and positive for all of you. I am the cornerstone of this Sunday school.
Victor, you can have hope and still be sad. Do you want a hug, Victor?
I'm fine. I am completely fine. And even if I'm not fine, I will be fine eventually. So why should I waste time crying about my beloved gerbil now? Where's Hannibal Hamster? Oh, hey there, Montgomery. A very sad thing has happened. Sad? You see, Hannibal Hamster has passed away. Passed away? But I loved him. I know. I loved him too. Why aren't you crying? I can't. I'm too strong. Jesus cried. He's strong. You got me there.
Leave it to Monty. All part of the healing process.
Okay, so what happened in our story today? That was a pretty sad story, wasn't it? So we had Hannibal Hamster, their class, their Sunday school class hamster, he died. And they were sad, weren't they? Victor's friends were very sad. But what happened to Victor? It was his hamster, but how did he react? He decided he wanted to be strong, and he wasn't going to let his feelings show, was he? Even though his friends were trying to encourage him to let his feelings out, but he decided he was going to be strong, and he wasn't going to let it bother him. But you could tell in his eyes. Did you notice when they went over to Mr. Fuzzler, and his eyes, he almost started to cry, but then he still stuck it out, and he didn't, and then he got angry. So sometimes when we get sad, and we try really hard not to show our sadness, then we get angry, and then we're mean, and we just have to let it into our hearts and let us be sad, don't we? And that's what Monty showed him, that it was okay to cry. And as Victor, even though he wanted to be strong, who did Monty tell him also cried? It was Jesus, wasn't it? And he said, Jesus is strong, but Jesus cried too when his friend Lazarus died. So we need to be able to let ourselves have our emotions, and we need to let ourselves be sad sometimes. And remember that last week before, the last time we were together, I kind of got sad too, didn't I? And you guys gave me hugs, and you gave me encouragement, and I needed that. And that's what we need to do when we get sad, and we need to let our feelings out, but we need to know that who's always, always with us? Jesus, isn't he? Yeah, Jesus is always with us when we're sad, and when we need somebody to hold us, Jesus is there to do that. And Jesus can be sad too, and that's okay, because Jesus is just like us. And Jesus is sad, and we can be sad, but Jesus is strong and he holds us. So that's what I want you to remember, that you need to, it's all part of the healing process when we cry, isn't it? And let our emotions out and our feelings. But we know we're never alone, and Jesus is always with us to keep us strong and keep us together, right? And so I was just thinking about being strong, and a symbol of being strong is a rock, isn't it? And I've got a rock here, and a long time ago I painted a cross on my rock, and I've got little water droplets too. And this rock reminds me that Jesus is the rock, and he's strong. And you know what? I invite you to maybe this week when you're out and about, when you're taking a walk, because you're not supposed to go too far from home, but if you're out in the yard or walking and you find a rock and pick it up and take it home and maybe paint a cross on it, or a heart or something to remind you that Jesus is your rock and Jesus is always with you. So keep strong, and remember Jesus is with us. And so another week, and we'll pray, and then have a good week, and we'll see you next time. But let's pray, and make sure you pray loud enough so Mom and Dad can hear you. God of love, there are sad and grieving people everywhere. Be with them and help us provide comfort and love to them when we can. Amen. See you next week.